and welcome to Enquire to Choir. My name is Eva and I'm here to help you, fellow choir people. So you're in a position of being a choir accompanist. Great, you're at the right place. If you're coming to this video thinking this is much harder than I thought it would be, I'm here to tell you, you are absolutely right. That job is really underappreciated, underestimated. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you're absolutely right. I am a pianist and I worked a lot as a choir accompanist. So I've been in those shoes many times, but now I work as a choir director. So I'm in the position to expect something out of my choir accompanists. This is the reason why I wanted to do this video, to help you, because it's a specific job. It takes a specific combination of skills to be a good choir accompanist. And I don't see people out there talking about it as much as I believe they should. So in this video, we're going to talk about the truths about the job, what the choir director and the choir needs of a choir accompanist, what your functions are, what you should do or you should be doing as the choir accompanist, how to achieve that, why the job is great, and finally, what you should be, which will become much clearer if you wait for that section. So I hope you find this video useful. I hope I answer all of your concerns and questions, and let's start with it. Okay, so let's talk about the truths or the facts of life when it comes to the position. Being a choir accompanist, the first harsh truth is it's not about you. I thought about framing this statement as you're not important, but that's not true. It's just not about you. And I understand that being a pianist, you are used to being about you, because as pianists, we are able to perform anything and the complexity of our music scores are extreme. It takes a lot to learn a new music score to perform and to learn how to play the accompaniment of a new music score takes time and skill and practice, and it would be really obvious that you deserve the attention and the recognition and your point of view being taken into concern when it comes to the whole performance, but it's not, because it's not your vision when it comes to the choir performance. You have an input and you do it by playing the piano in a certain way, but the recognition, it's not about you. You have a function for the choir performance and you're playing a role in the whole performance. So without you, it's not the same performance. But do you have the same recognition? No. And I'm not saying that to be rude or disrespectful. I'm saying this to be honest. That's a level of ego we have to let go. The attention is not on us. And while you do have a certain amount of your point of view, you can project into the performance, the main point of view, the main trajectory of the performance is not yours. It's the choir's and the choir directors. So if you think you will be the most important opinion when it comes to the performance, and if you expect that the world when it comes to you accompanying the choir will be yours, it will not. That's just a fact of life. Connected to that, the second truth is the praise is rare, because you have a function. You have a function to do, and it's expected of you to do it well. So if you do it well, it will be understood that you've done your job. It will not be considered, probably, in most cases, it will not be considered as a special achievement. People are not really listening to you, they're listening to the choir. But if you do something wrong, they will most definitely recognize it. Also, many times you will be in a position where something happens during the performance and you save it. Many times, as an accompanist, we save the main people. Ironically, nobody recognizes that if we've done it well. So nobody could recognize that you've saved the person. If you've done that job well, then nobody will notice it. but it is also true that you will know it and you can take it in as a newfound skill, that you're capable to adapt and to save someone and be a good accompanist, a good support system. I will repeat again, it is harder than it looks. It is a very hard thing to do. It is a very hard job. You have to please everyone. You have to be correct. You have to play the piano, which is, a thing you have to do. That is not a simple thing. While appreciating everyone else and being connected to everyone else and following everyone's instructions and playing a crucial part. The pressure is on you to be without a huge mistake, but also the praise doesn't come in a way you deserve to. And that's just a fact of that job. So that is the reason why I wanted to start this video by saying that, because I think there is something about acknowledging that the job is not, we love it and it's a great job to have, but it's different than you think. What I, as a choir director, expect from my choir accompanist. Many people think that it's just about, you coming to the performance and playing the piano, or coming to the rehearsal and playing the piano for the piece. And we're not just talking about that, because I have a choir in front of me. So if you are my choir accompanist, I expect you to know the voices as well, to know the lines the voices have. Chances are we're not going to practice it all the way through from the beginning to the end all of the time, and I will expect you to know how to start from the bar 17 or 33, and not always from the beginning to the end. And when I want you to start from someplace else, I will ask for the beginning pitch of every voice. If it takes you 15 minutes to find the place I'm asking you to start from, the intonation, the beginning pitch of every voice, that's a problem. What I expect as a choir director of the choir accompanist is to listen, not just to hear everyone, but I want you to listen to the choir, to the performance. I want the accompanist to integrate with the performance. The accompanist is not leading the choir, it's supporting it. The choir director dictates everything. So I want the accompaniment to be in accordance with the choir director's rules and input. So the first thing I expect is for you to listen to the choir and to incorporate the sound within the choir sound. The second I want is for you to pay attention. I'm doing something here. I'm giving instructions. So if you start the score, if you start playing, for example, I realize that you're too loud and I keep signaling to you that you're too loud, but you're not even watching me anymore, that's a problem. Being an accompanist is not about performing the accompaniment from the beginning to the end. It's about being within the sound of the choir. And choir is a special sound because we do so much to adapt everything, to harmonize well, to make the choir sound really beautiful and equal. So the accompaniment has to support it. If the choir sound is well balanced, but the accompaniment comes in and ruins everything, that is the problem. So during the performance, I, as the choir director, signal to the accompaniment to adapt. I need that accompanist to register me, which means the accompanist has to listen to the sound and to pay attention to the choir director and to everyone and everything that is going on. I need the choir accompanist to follow the instructions. The choir accompanist doesn't have the real picture when it comes to the choir sound. Only the choir director, the choir conductor knows what the sound is like. If you're playing the piano and you're too loud, you are maybe not aware of it. That is okay. But if I give you an instruction that you have to take it down a notch, I expect the accompanist to look at me, to register me, and to do it without any question. Because while I recognize and respect the work that they are doing at the piano, I need them to be in accordance with the rest of the choir. If the person doesn't want to take it down a notch because they're convinced that they're right and they have the right to be as loud, that's a problem. What the choir needs as well is not to be distracted by your playing. This is so unfair, but it comes down to if you have a difficult part in your scores you have to play, and it takes an extra effort and it takes a while for you to get it right, we shouldn't be aware of that. The choir shouldn't be aware of that, which is so unfair. I know. Again, I think I'm one of the nicer ones. You can play it perfectly and you can play it less perfectly. It doesn't matter if I'm not distracted by it, if you're not slowing down, if you're not affecting the choir in any way. That said, supporting the choir sound is a different thing. So if I want the choir to be louder, I want you to be louder as well. But I don't want you to affect the choir sound because something is a difficult part for you. That also means that if you're coming to a more difficult part in your scores and suddenly you lose the connection with us, you stop looking at me, you stop following me, that is also a problem. You have to have it practiced well enough for us not to be affected by any of the disturbances in your scores. But in a few minutes, we're going to talk about how to achieve that, because that's not an easy task. And the solution for that problem probably isn't what you think. What I also need my Enquire accompanist to be is very knowledgeable about the scores. You have to know it inside out. That means every beginning, every line, every new part, every dynamic, every positioning, every chord. And I know it seems like a lot. I'm not expecting you to know everything, if I call you in the middle of the night that you know what's on the third page on the, 37 bar. But I do expect you not to take 5 minutes for every place I ask of you. If you take 5 minutes to read a certain chord or the beginning pitch, that takes the time from me and the choir. And it's not so difficult, because if you do an analysis of a score and you practice it with the choir and you practice it alone and you are really alert, then you're practicing it all the time and it becomes much easier. And furthermore, that becomes really helpful if something occurs during the performance and you have to start from a different part. You're already very quick about it. And actually, I would recommend you watching a video about how to analyze a choir score. It is here. It's for choir directors, but if you recognize how a choir director thinks, that could be very valuable to you as the accompanist. Again, the job is much harder than it looks. What are your functions? What do you have to do? Let's separate the rehearsals and the performances. The rehearsals, I want you to be there. I want you to be on time. I want you to know what we are going to do. It is my job to inform you what the rehearsal plan is. I don't know what the deal is in your situation, but I do not expect my choir accompanist to do the choir warm-up. I, as a choir director, do the choir warm-up. But if you need to do that, there is also a video here how to play the piano for the choral warm-up. I highly recommend. I actually think that video could be very useful for you when it comes to accompaniment in general. So you have that there. But during the rehearsal, as I said, I expect you to sit at the piano, to be an active member of the rehearsal. So if I say something to the choir, if I spend 10 minutes working on a crescendo with the choir, or instructing them about the dynamics, instructing them about the fact that there is a forte part in the score, I expect you to know that. So if I'm telling them to be forte and you are not forte, you didn't recognize that as an input, that is a waste of time for me. Because if the choir has to be forte and they're forte and you play with them and you stay piano, the effect is not there. It's really rude to say it like that, but when I'm instructing the choir, I'm also instructing you without saying anything to you. That's just the job. Also, I will expect of you to maybe play the beginning chord or the beginning note of every voice, because if you do that for me and if you're able to do that for me, then it saves me time, because then I don't have to come to the piano, play it by myself, and then coming back to my position and then instructing the choir to start singing. Please don't make a TikTok about that very rude choir director who thinks that accompanists are not worthy, because that's not what I'm thinking at all. But I've been in your shoes and I know what it's like, and nobody even asks you anything. Nobody asks you, is that difficult for you? Or did you have enough time to practice the score? Sometimes you are not able to play forte because you have so much to do that you're like, I don't have the skills to play it forte yet. But if you're going for a job and if you're going for a position to be choir accompanist, this is expected of you. And actually, if you would ever study to be a choir conductor professional, the accompaniment is a big deal and it's a very difficult subject. It's really required through many years, and the first position you will have before actually becoming a conductor, you would be an accompanist. But mostly, as the choir director, I expect of you to be present, active, and alert, and reactive to my instructions. I am respectful to the fact that it takes some time for the accompanist to get comfortable, but I do expect the role is understood, the function is well executed or trying to be well executed, while my authority is respected. When it comes to the performance, outside of accompaniment being amazing, choir directors expect you to know the protocol, to know the order of the scores we are performing. Of course, there are some questions that you need to ask your choir director because maybe you were not informed. And the role that you have is very specific, so probably you have to ask, what do I wear for the performance? Will we play it this way or that way? In which order do I come to the stage? That are all valid questions. But if I have to answer the question for you, which I already answered, I gave that information to my choir in front of you, that is not a good position to be in. Especially you don't want to be in a position where you are at the stage already in the middle of the performance and you don't know what's next. Also, if you need a page turner, you have to inform me. If you want an extra rehearsal because of the page turner, inform me. The problem is not the extra rehearsal or the extra person. It's a problem if it's not known in advance. Okay, so now to be a more optimistic person, how to achieve all of that? Because at the same time, you have to play the piano, you have to play it well, you have to play it correctly, and you have to do all of these things. As a pianist, I will instruct you this. Forget what you know about piano, forget what you know about practicing it, and practice it in a different way. Nobody cares if you play all of the notes correctly. Nobody will hear the difference if you play a full chord or a less full chord. What the choir needs and what I need is for it to sound great. I need to hear a well-played melody with the correct harmonies, in a correct tempo, and in the right style. So sometimes the accompaniment is written so difficult that it's impossible to play it, and it's impossible for you to learn how to play it in a few days. But because the choir shouldn't be affected by your playing in a negative way or shouldn't be distracted, the solution for this problem is to leave something out. Literally, if you have a big jump and it's so difficult, and it doesn't make a difference for the choir if you play it really high or a bit lower, then change the octave. All I want and all the choir needs is the full picture. The full picture is the right character. If you have to support the choir, if you have to give the introduction in the right way, with the right energy, that's what I need. That's what it needs to sound like. And sometimes things are not achievable if you play all the correct notes, because let's face it, some of the accompaniments written are completely crazy. And life is too short for you to struggle that way. It's too short to play all the notes. And I know what you're thinking, but I need to play all the correct notes. I'm a professional, or I'm not a professional, but I have my respect towards the instrument and towards the scores. That's all true. I know. I played Brahms sonatas and I know what it's like, I respect every tone. But It's about the full picture. It's about you supporting the choir in the best sense. You know, if your right hand is falling apart because the notes, semi, demi, quavers, or whatever you call them, 16 notes. In Croatian, they're called 16 stinke. And if the 16 stinke, you have to play them in a fast tempo and it's falling apart because you didn't have the time to practice it, the solution for that problem, if you have to perform it at the rehearsal, is not you slowing down to perform them better, because that will affect negatively the choir. The solution is a simple one, and it's to add more pedal. There, I said it. We all do it. Don't pretend like you don't do that. That's where the score analysis comes into play, because you need to recognize what the most important things are. When you're playing the accompaniment, there are actually, in many cases, orchestral music put into piano music. So that's like doing an arrangement, and arrangements can be different. So if you listen to the orchestral performance, choir orchestral performance, you recognize what the important things are. Because if you look just at the score, you can't see it. Sometimes you really cannot distinguish what's important and what's not. And when you listen to the performance, then you recognize it better, and then you know what to focus on. So it's important that the main melodies are heard, that the connecting parts are very well played. If the choir has a part to sing, and then you have the connecting part solo, and then the next part for the choir comes in, you should practice that more. The connecting part is something you have to practice more. When the choir is singing, you can adapt, you can arrange for it to be a little bit more simpler, but for the connecting part, you need the full effect. And for that, the score analysis is very useful. It's about the forest and not about the trees in the forest. All this negative talk, and it's not fair because the job is great. I know you may be thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I being an accompanist when I can be a solo player? Well, first, let's be real. Like, really real. How many times do you have an opportunity to play a solo performance as a pianist? And how many times do you have the opportunity to practice piano in a real way without just practicing in your room? Being a choir accompanist, if nothing else, gives you the opportunity to practice all the time. Or maybe not practicing your solo piano scores, but you are practicing, you're keeping your fingers very active, you're practicing a new skill, you're practicing being adaptive, recognizing new music situations, you're being put in musical contexts you have never been put in before, and you learn how to know everything. With experience, that gives you a superpower, because you learn how to recognize important parts, to listen to everyone, to adapt to anything, to start from anywhere. And by doing that repeatedly, every rehearsal, every performance, you get so much experience. And that experience is given to you in a completely different way, which you, as a solo performer, could never get. Also, of course, it can help you be a good accompanist to anyone, especially to voices and to wind instruments and brass instruments, because it's about the breath. The best thing about this job for me was always that I am a meaningful part. I have to do a lot. I have a very important role without the focus being on me. I learned how to express myself without expressing myself too directly. I learned how to give my input, express my music opinion without defining it, and without putting myself out there in the most vulnerable way. Learning how to express your music in all of the restrictions given by the people performing with me is a special skill to learn. That's the most valuable thing I learned from being a choir accompanist, and I try to give that opportunity to the people I now hire as choir accompanists, because as a choir director I recognize that It's a difficult position to be in. You can find your way of playing the accompaniment while still respecting and following all the instructions. And finally, what you should be. The main thing you should be is to be respected. You're doing an immense job, and your choir directors and your choirs should respect you. Don't let someone put you in an inferior position just because you're an accompanist. What you also should be. I know it's not the same for every choir, but if the choir has a budget and the choir director is paid, you deserve to be paid. I stand by that. I would be very interested to know whether this video scared you or made you want it even more, but I certainly hope that it was helpful. It's just the job, you know, and I want you to know what is expected of you, because when you come to the rehearsal, you have better chances and you don't go through that shock. A good choir accompanist is very hard to find, so if you manage to become a better one, more choirs will follow. If you wish to see more from Enquire to Choir, this is a channel about how to work with choirs, so maybe you find it helpful. If you want to recommend this channel to someone you know, please do, because tomorrow is my birthday, so it would be nice to get more subscribers. It would be a great birthday present. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here. Good luck with everything. I believe in you. You can do it. You know, take it easy, but take it seriously. Who knows, maybe someday we will collaborate. If you wish to contact me, you can email me. If you wish to say something hopefully nice, you can put it down in the comments. And again, if you wish to see more, you can watch all of the other videos here and you can subscribe. I will change my outro line for this video, so I will say accompany well, dear accompanists, and I hope I see you next time. Bye!